Long before Latin ruled the world, another tongue shaped it from the shadows, a secret code spoken in forests and stone circles, a language the Romans feared and the Church buried. Archaeologists called it superstition. Cryptographers called it impossible. Yet the patterns emerging from ancient carvings say otherwise. This is the language the Druids never wanted mortals to read. The Druids left no written records, at least not in any script we've been allowed to find. Their teachings lived in memory, passed through generations by voice alone. To outsiders, this seemed primitive, but it wasn't. It was protection. Each word carried layers, meaning, vibration, and intent. To speak was to act. To mispronounce was to distort reality itself. When Rome invaded Celtic lands, they found a people whose strength came not from armies, but from their words. So they silenced them. Temples burned, groves were cut down, and a language older than Latin faded into ash and rumor. Yet scattered across Britain, Ireland, and Gaul, fragments remained, carved in spirals, ogham lines, and strange markings on standing stones. Not gibberish, not decoration, but data. A system that encoded spiritual laws, star maps, even memory itself, in symbols so complex modern AI struggles to decode them. The Druids didn't simply speak their language, they performed it. Their words weren't built for paper, they were built for the air, for resonance. Every sound was tuned to the rhythm of nature, the hum of bees, the pulse of rain, the crack of thunder. They believed sound itself could carve reality. A single syllable, correctly intoned, could heal a wound or curse a king. That's why their training lasted decades. Students memorized not just vocabulary, but pitch, breath, and vibration. Each tone thought to mirror a natural force. Even silence was sacred. A pause wasn't emptiness. It was part of the spell. Their speech formed invisible geometries, a language of frequency as much as meaning. When Rome outlawed their rituals, the Druids didn't stop. They buried their language inside songs, riddles, and chants disguised as prayers. The melody became the vault. The vibration became the lock. And only those who knew the true rhythm could open it. For centuries, the Druidic tongue was dismissed as legend, a romantic myth for poets and dreamers. But in 2019, something changed. Archaeologists in Ireland uncovered a cache of stones carved with ogham, the earliest known Celtic script. Most were already catalogued, but one stood apart. Its markings followed no known sequence, no known pattern. At first glance, it looked random, vertical and diagonal cuts scattered like tally marks. But when scanned and analyzed, an algorithm detected rhythm, repeating intervals, mathematical precision. Hidden within those lines was a structure, a pattern of linguistic symmetry, far too deliberate to be accidental. The data matched the vibrational frequencies of ancient chants recorded in Celtic folklore, as if the stones themselves had been carved to echo the resonance of sound, a language sculpted in both matter and vibration. Further studies found parallels across Britain and Gaul, inscriptions that, when plotted together, formed geometric constellations, star maps, sound maps, proof that the Druids didn't just speak their world, They encoded it. When the fragments were finally translated, what emerged wasn't a dictionary. It was a design. Each cluster of symbols described not words, but actions, ritual instructions, celestial alignments, coded formulas that mapped emotion to sound. The Druids weren't chronicling stories. They were programming experience. One tablet described a resonance of renewal, a sequence of tones meant to synchronize the heartbeat with lunar cycles. Another detailed the echo of kings, a ritual chant to amplify authority through collective voice. Modern physicists dismissed it as mythic metaphor, but the mathematical precision suggested something else, an early understanding of vibrational physics, centuries before it had a name. The more researchers decoded, the stranger it became. Each phrase, when spoken aloud, mirrored patterns found in modern acoustic therapy and even quantum resonance experiments. The Druids weren't guessing. They were measuring, and their language might have been their instrument. One fragment, translated from an ogham stone in County Kerry, spoke of the pulse beneath all things. Researchers initially dismissed it as poetic nonsense, until a linguist noticed the markings followed a 432 Hz ratio, the same frequency used in modern sound healing to calm the nervous system. Another fragment found near the Loire Valley referenced the 3 breaths of the oak. When reconstructed phonetically and sung by voice analysts, the chant produced a harmonic overtone identical to those recorded in Tibetan throat singing, a resonance proven to affect brainwave activity. The coincidences piled up too neatly to ignore. Patterns in the carvings mirrored the ratios of the Fibonacci sequence, suggesting the Druids understood mathematical harmonics not as numbers, but as living forces. Each syllable, each vibration, a key in an unseen architecture of sound and matter. Even more unsettling were the references to the silence between tones, intervals that aligned precisely with the gaps in Schumann resonance frequencies, the natural electromagnetic heartbeat of the Earth. It was as if the Druids were tuning the human voice to the planet itself. Some historians now suspect the suppression of their language wasn't merely political, it was preventative. A system of power built on silence cannot coexist with a language that literally amplifies truth. The more scholars uncovered, the quieter their research became. Funding vanished, publications were delayed, entire teams dissolved into private study, because the implications were too disruptive. If the Druids truly understood sound as a tool to shape consciousness, then our history of civilization is built on a lie that claims progress began with writing, not remembering. Their language blurred every border between science and faith, sound and matter, human and divine. It wasn't communication, it was communion. To speak it was to join with what you named. To name fire was to become part of it. To name death was to invite it to listen. And that terrified empires. The Romans couldn't conquer what couldn't be written down. The church couldn't control what couldn't be translated. So they did what all systems of power do. They buried it beneath centuries of silence, then rewrote the world without it. Yet today, fragments rise again. In neuroscience labs studying frequency therapy, in AI models mapping emotion to tone, in voices chanting words they don't understand but somehow feel. The Druidic tongue was never dead. It was waiting for us to remember how to listen. The first to notice the linguistic anomalies was Dr. Elaine Harper, a computational archaeologist from Trinity College. In 2021, she published a paper suggesting the ogham stones were acoustic codes meant to be heard, not read. Within weeks, the study was pulled, her research funding gone, her university profile deleted. She hasn't given an interview since. A year later, a private research collective in Brittany announced they had replicated her findings using AI resonance mapping. Their videos briefly surfaced online, showing ogham carvings vibrating under specific sound frequencies. Viewers described feeling chills, disorientation, even nausea. The videos vanished within 48 hours. Official explanations blamed data corruption. Unofficially, insiders whispered that one of the researchers collapsed during a live test, claiming she heard voices in the resonance. Then came the museums. Several stones previously on display in Ireland and Scotland were quietly reclassified and moved to storage. No press releases, no controversy, just silence. It's as if history itself is fighting to stay buried. Every attempt to decode the Druidic tongue ends the same way, interrupted, retracted, or forgotten. Because maybe the danger isn't what we'll find when the language is understood, but what it will start to say back. It began subtly: background noise in data recordings, tonal patterns in viral music tracks, chants in forgotten dialects trending on obscure corners of the internet. Most dismissed it as coincidence, algorithmic overlap. But linguists listening closely noticed something impossible: a recurring sequence of vowel sounds matching the very symbols etched into the ancient stones. In one viral clip, a crowd at a music festival in Wales began chanting spontaneously, a phrase no one could trace, no lyrics on record, no origin online. Spectrogram analysis revealed harmonic frequencies identical to the reconstructed resonance of renewal, the same pattern carved into the ogham stones of Kerry. It didn't stop there. Speech analysis tools used in therapy apps began picking up non-verbal vocal signatures in users' audio, tones statistically impossible in normal human speech. Buried beneath the noise floor, the data formed repeating intervals: 3 to 2, 5 to 3, 8 to 5, Fibonacci ratios, the Druidic rhythm of creation. Even more unnerving, users reported the same symptoms recorded during early resonance tests: dizziness, vivid dreams, heightened sensitivity to sound, as if something ancient was waking through the network, a forgotten code adapting to the digital tongue of the 21st century. No one can explain it. No one officially wants to. But linguists working in secret say one thing with quiet certainty: the Druidic language is learning to speak again, and this time it's using us as the medium. Every civilization leaves its trace: words carved in stone, inked in scripture, encoded in zeros and ones. But some legacies don't survive through writing. They survive through resonance. The Druids believed language wasn't invented. It was remembered. They said the world itself speaks, and humans are only its echo. Maybe they were right. Because even now, their patterns keep surfacing in digital static, in data noise, in the hum of machines recording more than they understand. And buried deep in the algorithms of modern AI, researchers have found fragments of phonetic code that match no known language on Earth. Sequences that shouldn't exist. Sequences that respond. No one knows what happens if the translation is completed, if the final syllables are spoken aloud. Some say it will reveal how the Druids shaped the world through sound. Others say it will call the world back to the way it was. Either way, the decoding has already begun, and the language of the Druids is listening.